Minister, my lords, ladies and gentlemen, BDA are working with the Royal Association for the Deaf and Signature, and we're working for years, many years, with the Minister, working together, and thank you very much for coming here today to support this important day. So Malcolm, thank you very much for supporting this, and also thank you very much for your long-term support and setting up the all-parliamentary group for deaf.
Minister, my lords, ladies and gentlemen, the British Deaf Association, the Royal Association for Deaf People and Signature are delighted to be collaborating on organising this reception to mark such an important date for deaf users of British Sign Language. On behalf of my fellow Chief Executives, Jan Sheldon of RAD and Jim Edwards of Signature, may I also say how grateful we are that you have all made the time to be with us today. And Sir Malcolm, a big thank you for hosting this event. Thank you too for your many years of support for deaf people and your chairmanship of the all-party parliamentary group on deafness.
The BSL has been a long history as a language, and it's finally, after a long struggle, it's finally recognised in the 18th of March 2003 as an official language. BSL recognition has its own vocabulary, grammar and syntax, but it's quite separate from the English language. I'm happy today, important to Andrew Smith MP and first 10 years ago working together, so thank you for your help in recognition. Thank you very much.
BSL is now recognised as a language with its own vocabulary, grammar and syntax, which are quite different from English. I'm also pleased that today with us are Andrew Smith, MP, who's over at the back. Also, Maria Eagle MP is here somewhere. Where is she? Is she here? Both of us were with us 10 years ago when recognition happened in 2003. We remain truly grateful to it.
The recognition didn't give BSL any new rights at all, any new legal rights. And the equality hasn't really been achieved, and there's a real problem. Review is that things have improved gradually. There are more interpreters, more subtitles, more sign language on television, video phone technology, and deaf people have got work and keeping work, but it's very sort of fragmented. It's still very difficult. For one example, there's an elderly deaf lady who told me that her husband, who's deaf, he had a stroke and was very ill, went to hospital, but they couldn't find an interpreter. So after 1 hour, they still couldn't find an interpreter, and he actually went blind. And this shows what a problem it is finding interpreters. So got to carry on with hard work. For example, at work, deaf people are often missed for promotion. Children in mainstream school, they expect to learn at the same level about a subject, but often it's this communication support worker whose signing is British Sign Language ability is at a lower level than the student. take a look at, there's some postcards at the back of the table by the NDCS campaign to stop the cuts to education and supporting children. So I think Susan Daniels is at the back. So well done in all your work for the campaign. It's such a good job that you've done.
Recognition did not give BSL any new legal rights. The lack of equality remains a big problem. But life today is a bit easier for deaf people than in 2003. For example, there are more interpreters, more subtitling, and signing on television. Video phone technology is better. Access to work has helped deaf people to find and keep jobs, so there have been positives. But there are still not enough interpreters for the many thousands of deaf people who use BSL. One example I can give you. An elderly deaf lady told the BDA that when her deaf husband had a stroke, the hospital couldn't get an interpreter. So he wasn't treated within the hour. As a result, he went blind. That shows a tragic situation. Many deaf people can't get work, and if they do, they're often passed over for promotion. Too many deaf students in mainstream secondary schools are expected to learn complicated subjects using a communication support worker whose BSL skills are not as good as the deaf students. You will see postcards on the tables here about the NDCS's campaign against the cuts to specialist services for deaf children. Please support this campaign. I'm sure that Susan Daniels is here, so I'd like to congratulate Susan for the work the NDS has been doing.